That one wasn't too bad.
That wasn't bad at all, man.
That was not bad at all.
So I've been fucking up, like really messing up those ribeyes because I have a lot. A lot. So yesterday I had two ribeyes, two 10-ounce ribeyes, lots of fat. You know, the cool thing about Piedmontese is that, and I always say this, but they have cuts of steak that have just a good amount of fat, but then they also have like the flat irons that Andrew loves that are low fat for dieters. It's just good blend.
Yeah, I've gotten a bunch of ribeyes as well. And, you know, it's funny because we go on different trends for a little while. We're eating the hamburgers for a while. Then we're, you know, eating the flat irons or the bavettes. We just kind of keep switching it up. But you're right. They got a lot of variety of a lot of different types of meat. And because I've been mainly only eating twice a day, I've been eating the fattier cuts that they have, which are still lower in fat than most other steaks.
Yeah, I've been leaning a lot towards the lean Nebraska cut ribeye, like 65 grams of protein and only, I don't know, I think it's only like 4 grams of fat, but it's a fatty cut. So it's like the same like 10-ounce size as like the full fat ribeye, but has, you know, significantly less fat. But last night, yeah, I've been fasting a lot lately.
What?
I know, a lot. Like it's it's been accidental almost, but then I'm like, yeah, you know what? Like, just keep going. Just keep going. And so last night I had a bunch of hamburger patties from Piedmontese. They were just 85-15. They weren't the hot dotty patties, but I'm just surprised every time I eat those, how full I get off of just 2. I get all like, so, you know, we'll thaw like 2 packs. Cause I'm like, yeah, let's go. I'm going to have like 18 of them. And then I have 2 and I'm like, you know what, man, I'm really full. Like another one's going to hurt. But, you know, I'll have that other one. But yeah, eventually I'm just like, oh shit, like this is rough.
We're so stupid because I make that mistake all the time too. And I'm always like, I can do it this time. Yeah. And then I never do. Like,
it happens every time. Yeah, it drives me nuts. And the cool thing is the family loves it. Stephanie can handle 1. Jasmine can barely get through 1. And so, you know, when you think about like, oh shit, what, like it's going to take this whole feast to try to feed my family. It's like, no, like dude, for my family, like 1 pack is honestly enough, but because you're right, we are a little ridiculous. We want to do way more. But yeah, and the other thing real quick is like, it's ground beef. It's a hamburger patty. How good can it be? I'm telling you guys, there's something different about this meat. The only way for you guys to experience it right now is through Piedmontese.com. That's PIEDMONTESE.com. At checkout, enter promo code PowerProject for 25% off your order. And if your order is $150 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Again, fatty cuts, lean cuts, ground beef, hot dogs. Can I get an Ayo?
Ayo.
There you go. See, not a hey now. You're not paying attention. He's texting over there.
I'm not. My phone's over here. You better stop.
Sorry,
stop.
You're taking notes. Okay, my bad. I can't see that far.
Well, yeah, get new glasses.
I know. I do need new glasses. Piedmontese.com. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes. And don't forget that promo code PowerProject for 25% off your order. And again, if your order is $150 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Mark, what the heck are you doing out in Bodega?
I've been running on the beach, feeling really good, and gotten some lifting in and stuff too. I want to go over this tweet real quick that I just saw from Ted Neiman, Ted Neiman, the other day. And I think he brings up a really interesting point. It's just to go along with all the stuff that we share on the show often about protein leveraging. He's the one that does a lot of the research on it and has a lot of great information. But he talked about what you eat determines how much you eat. And it's just to kind of play off of what you guys just said. Like your eyes, you know, sometimes are bigger than your stomach, and you look at the food and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to devour all of that. And then you get to it and you start eating it. That's what happened to me with the beef ribs from Piedmontese. I was so pissed because I wanted to eat like a lot of them. I wanted to eat like 10 of them, but I honestly ate like 3 of them, and I had to take a break, and then I had to take like a walk around the block, and I was like, I need to eat more of those because they tasted so good. But people that are trying to lose weight, people that are trying to get in better shape, you can utilize that to your advantage. When you make better food choices, you make really good food choices, and the food that you consume isn't just full of calories. It's also full of, it has a good amount of protein in it. And it also has a lot of nutrients that your body needs for the day. That's going to help you to control the overall amount of food that you eat. And I just have found it to be more and more relevant with my own diet over the last few years, really, with, leaning into protein leveraging and a little bit of intermittent fasting.
It helps a lot. No, it helps massively. I think it's going to be, it's great that we're going to have Lane Norton on soon, because we know how Lane, he's more open to more types of diets, but he still like loves carbs, and he doesn't think fasting's that necessary, or he thinks everything has its place, but he's more on the carb side of things. But even so, like, we've seen how beneficial this can be for people, especially when people like aren't tracking. I think it is easier to be more intuitive, and with being in a caloric deficit, when you're not tracking macros, when you're focusing on fat, protein, and whole foods, maybe some whole food carbohydrates, but it's much easier. That's why it's so easy for us to maintain what we have, even while not tracking a damn macro ever. Maintaining muscle, gaining muscle, losing body fat over time. It's just easier.
And I magically tie this into today's topic. We're going to talk a lot today about not giving up, and also maybe when it is time to switch to doing something else, because sometimes it is in your best interest to stop doing something because it's literally not working. But we're always in search of trying to be better. And I know Nsima, years ago, you competed in bodybuilding many, many times, gotten on stage and been probably 5%, 6% body fat or something like that. And nowadays you're walking around a similar body fat percentage. And it was because of your pursuit, and because you never gave up on believing that you could be big and strong and lean. Most people kind of give up on these concepts because they're like, this is unobtainable. I can't do it. I've heard so much on the internet that you can't kind of have all these different things going on. And, I can't do jujitsu and not eat a lot of carbohydrates and fast and so forth. But you never gave up on these things. And these are things that you kept bringing into your daily routine. And now you're able to do them. And it doesn't seem like it's, I'm sure it's challenging at times, but it doesn't seem like it's difficult to you. It seems like it's just something you integrated and it started to adapt to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because when I think back to 2015 and 2016, if you guys don't know, is when Doug Miller got back on stage, I think. We've had Doug Miller on the podcast.
Jacked.
He's just jacked to just a disgusting level. It makes no sense, and everybody thinks he's on drugs, but I believe in Doug. But when I saw Doug hit the stage, I was like, yeah, that's the new goal. By 30, I'm gonna be as big as Doug Miller. I'm gonna be able to get on stage like Doug Miller. I'm gonna be able to beat that. That was my goal at the time. And then a few months later, I found jujitsu, and I was like,
shit, it was that recent then.
Yeah, I started jujitsu in 2016. No, actually, 2016, I started.
No, just the goal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because
what could have been?
What could have been?
Nsima was in high school 3 years ago.
I know. Fucking A, it was, yeah.
But yeah, the goal switched when I saw jujitsu, because I was like, okay, well, maybe I can still really do the bodybuilding thing while doing jujitsu. But then jujitsu just became so freaking fun and engulfing that I was like, okay, athletically, I'll do this, but I'll still do all the bodybuilding stuff and see what I can maintain. And because I had a belief that I could maintain all of this muscle and this look while doing jujitsu, I think that belief is what helped me to do this. Even though I'm not a competing bodybuilder anymore, I guess I don't really look at it like I quit, but I just transitioned into something that I feel much more fulfillment with. And that was a gradual transition. It wasn't immediate, but it was really useful and beneficial for where I am now.
I'm not sure what year it was, but it was long ago, probably 2008 or something like that. Really having a hard time pinning down exactly when it was, but long ass time ago at Diablo Barbell, I competed in a powerlifting meet, and I squatted 700 pounds and benched 600 and pulled close to 700. The 700-pound squat that I did was the first time that I squatted that weight. It was 705, and I felt like I was going to die. Like when I did my opening attempt, which was like 633, I was like, I should just like fake an injury because I don't want to even bother to try to do my next 2 attempts because that one was so hard. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to deal with the pressure. Like even just unracking the weight, it felt like my head was going to pop off. And then by the time I got to the 700-pound squat, and I actually did the lift, I mean, it just felt like I was throwing up violently in a toilet, like when your head feels like it's going to explode. My eyes were bloodshot. I blew my face out. My face was bloodshot. I had like bloodshot marks all across my neck, and my chest was like white and red, and it was just gnarly. And I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, how does anybody, and my idols and role models and stuff at the time were the guys at Westside Barbell, like Chuck Vogapool and stuff like that. And I was like, how does anybody do that? How do you get to 800 pounds and 900 pounds or 1,000 pounds? I'm like, I don't fucking get it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So, after that day, after that competition, it would have been easy to say like, oh, okay, well, you're never going to be able to figure that out. That was really, really hard. And you're probably just going to hurt yourself if you kind of continue to work on that. But it was something that I could adapt to. It was something I could learn. And it was just going to take a tremendous amount of work, and it was going to take a tremendous amount of time. And, I'm grateful that I didn't stop doing that, because none of what we're doing right now would be going on, because I wouldn't have eventually went on to squat 800, 900, 1,000 pounds, stuff like that.
That really makes me look back on injuries that I've seen in powerlifting and been like, how many are legit and how many of people just oh shit, let me just get off this platform and have a good excuse.
It's demoralizing. You're not sure how you're going to get through the meet.
I really appreciate like you guys sharing like what you just shared, Mark, and then Nsima, you had mentioned in the past like being wrecked from bodybuilding, and I appreciate it so much because I look at you guys and I'm just like, I mean, obviously you guys gravitated towards fitness and lifting, and it worked out really well, but it's almost like when you're still starting out or you're trying to figure things out, it's like, well, it didn't come to me as easy as you got dog hair in your mouth again.
Husky hair.
Yeah. Fuck. It happens to me all the time, dude. But it didn't come to me that easy. So it's like, man, if I had their skill set or I had their advantages, like, yeah, I'd probably be much better off. But even for you animals, like it was not easy, right? Like it was hard, and you still had to push through.
It's all of its. Whoops. Undid my microphone.
Technical difficulties.
Dum 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 dum.
Time to grab a snack.
Hey now.
That was perfect.
Yes.
And I don't know what the hell I did there. I karate chopped my fucking microphone in half just now. That was really powerful. What I was going to say is that it's all really hard, people tend to think, oh, it's easier, because you created a fitness lifestyle, so you get to train all the time, or it must be easy for you because you're rich. But when I was broke and didn't really have much of a regular job, people would also point out the fact that it was maybe easier for me because I didn't have a regular job. And then you get a job and you make money, and then people are going to always use these kind of excuses to kind of, I think, make themselves feel better on maybe why they're not, following through on something. But for me, all this stuff that I've worked for and worked towards is, it's still in progress. I heard someone the other day talk about physique transformations, and I was like, your physique transformation starts when you recognize that you don't have the physique that you want and that you want to change it, and it never ends. It goes on forever. Mm-hmm. It's a game that you're going to be playing for a very long time, and just embrace it. I think it's a great journey to go along. You're going to make some changes to your body. Hopefully they're healthy, and hopefully you don't get lost in the shuffle and try to, try to be perfect or something like that, or try to be something that you're not, but it's a worthy pursuit. And then same thing with wealth. You gain money. It's like, well, now you're just getting started. I remember having a conversation years ago with Bradley Martin. He was setting up zoo culture, and he was having a tough time with permits and all these different things that was going on in LA at the time. And he called me up and he opened up the place, and he's like, it opens up tomorrow, man. He's like, I'm so excited. And I said, I'm really pumped and excited for you, but now you're just getting started. And I think a lot of times people don't, maybe that is why people sometimes give up, is because they feel like what's ahead of them, what lies ahead is insurmountable, and that they're maybe not going to be able to do it. And so you kind of get scared, and I think you're just like, fuck, man, I should probably go the other way.
I remember that phone conversation very well.
I think you were like with me, weren't you?
Yeah, I was actually, we were filming for Hustlemania, and we were just in your car, and you were talking to him. And when you said that, and he didn't say like, oh, we're almost done. Like, it wasn't like, oh, we're at the finish line, we win. It wasn't like that, but you could just hear that here's a guy that's probably got no sleep for the past like 2 months trying to get this gym off the ground. And then when he's like, yeah, it's about to happen, and Mark's like, yeah, the work's about to start. You just hear like a, and like, it was just quiet for what seemed like, an hour. It was only probably like 5 seconds, but you could tell he was just like, oh shit, dude, like, really? But what I was going to ask you guys, because Mark, you brought up like your physique and, wanting to get healthy and get better. I've seen this a couple times. I don't know if it's specifically with like the video game, like world or whatever, but anytime like a gamer wants to get in better shape, he gets kind of attacked pretty quickly and pretty bad. The most recent one was the Dreamcast guy, a YouTuber, makes great content, but he had just said that he was trying to get in better shape, and he was doing some pull-ups or whatever. And everybody started attacking him like, dude, you're still fat, you're still weak, like you ain't shit, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, wow, you guys all suck. But I don't know, did you guys ever experience anything like that where you are doing something and outside sources made you guys obviously, I mean, I don't know. That's why I'm asking this question. But like, did anything ever happen to where you kind of felt like, damn, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I should pack my shit up and go home, or maybe I should do something else. And if it didn't, maybe can you give some advice to people that might have been experiencing this and like what they can do to navigate these waters?
So this is something interesting. I have like, there's two things here. People want to keep you with them. Like, ooh, if you think about gamers, like this guy's sitting here, he's fucking destroying it at Fortnite, and he's killing all these assholes, like everyone. He's just so good. Then he's like, now I kind of want a 6-pack too. And everyone that's listening and watches him is like, no, fuck you, stay here with us. Like you can't be good at that and have a 6-pack. That's no fair, right? It's people are looking up to him already because he's, or whoever this person is, because they're amazing at this game. And now they're going to do something great in real life too. And people already look up to them. So I think what happens intrinsically is when people see themselves in somebody, they're like, they're doing something that I can achieve. And then when they're trying to now get in shape, people intrinsically can realize how difficult that can be. So they're like, I don't want you to do that too. Although it's probably going to be great for you. That's like, I want to be like you, and I kind of don't want to climb that mountain too. Stay here with me. And people do that in friend groups. Like the friend that's like, I kind of want to stop doing so much of this and maybe stop partying as much and do a healthier lifestyle. Fuck you, stay here with us. You think you're better than us?
Yeah.
You know? So it's tough. Mark, I know you got a lot on this right now.
Yeah, and Nsima, you nailed it. I think oftentimes the comments that we see, we forget that it has to do with what's going on in that person's life more so than it does anything to do with you. So they want to attack you because, like you said, they're, maybe they're, I don't know, nervous or scared or anxious that you're going to somehow, do something that's going to maybe take something away from them, or that you're going to leave them behind. I've seen this before with couples where one person wants to lose weight and the person starts to lose weight, and then the other person starts to try to sabotage that person, or just gets kind of disgruntled with that person because they don't want them to leave them. They don't want them to lose 40 pounds, 50 pounds and be a different person than what they've been used to. And so I think for some people it gets to be, it feels like threatening for some reason, which I'm not sure why. You would love to see more encouragement, but I also think on the flip side of that, the negativity for the haters, from the haters can be really powerful. Mm-hmm. When you do see those comments, when you do hear people say things that are disparaging or, are against, what you're trying to do, you can just be like, fuck that. Or you could use it as fuel. I've talked about that before. Use it as ammunition. All the things that people said you couldn't do or that you'll never be. Those are amazing tools that a lot of people have used for years and years to be successful. And, you can kind of get to be a little bit dangerous. For me personally, I'm trying to think of I don't know if I've really gotten myself into situations where I did something that I've had great parents and they have put me in a lot of situations for me to pursue things that I'm interested in. And so there really hasn't been, it's not like when I was a kid, I went out for cross country or something and was like, this is the wrong fucking place for me. I knew I didn't like to run. I knew that wasn't interesting to me. So I never got into a situation where, something just didn't feel right, but I have felt outmatched before. And that was definitely in pro wrestling. I mean, I've talked about that many times where the skill set of some of these individuals was just, it was insane. And wrestling, there's not really a gradual progression. You're either, wrestling on the independent circuit or you're with the big boys. And when I went from doing some independent stuff and, cutting promos and doing stuff like that, I got pretty good at it. But, once I got around, John Cena and some of the other people, it's like, holy shit, some of these people are they're just completely on a different level. And I didn't look at that as being discouraging though. I actually looked at that as all right, well, this is the way that this is. And if I would like to do what some of these other people are doing, I'm going to probably have to put in more time than they're putting in currently because they're already ahead of me. So I just kind of looked at it more as more positive reinforcement rather than just thinking I'm just going to pack up and go home.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I still get shit quite a bit from the Sarmageddon series. And then even being on this podcast, I'll still, receive random DMs or I'll see just a comment, someone saying Andrew, talk less. And so something I got from Mark Bell and something that I got from the podcast you sent me this morning with Andre 3000. But what Mark said back in the day, and back in the day is 2 years ago or whatever. But I know, right? You had said something like people would talk shit when I was broke, and now that I'm rich, they're still talking shit. And then something that Andre 3000 said, he was just yeah, we made music and people hated us. And then Rick Rubin was like, well, they're still going to hate you now. And, and the thought of people liking him and then making music that nobody liked, it's stopping him from doing more music. Mm. So something for myself, it's well, yeah, if people don't like me, they're not going to like me if I become the most proficient podcaster on the planet. If I become fucking Mr. Olympia, they're still not going to like me, period. However, those that like me now and then, those guys are the fucking, those people are the ones that I should be focusing on, not the people that are just going to dislike me just because of who I am.
Absolutely. And it's even further, so this stuff's weird because we put forward information. It's not we being liked, right? Or whatever. Accepted. It's an interesting thing because as our podcast, we want to be accepted by people. We want people to like our podcast, but it's how are we going about it? I don't think that we're doing things for people so that we'd be okay, they like us. You know what I mean?
We're not trying to be cool.
We're not trying to be cool. I don't give a fuck about being cool. I'm just doing the things I'm interested in, learning the things I'm interested about. I put it forward. If people dig it, cool. If they don't, it's okay. I really don't care. Because the interesting thing of what you said is when I started jujitsu, I started putting forward jujitsu stuff, bro, my following started dropping so quick. Dude, like I was on a steady decline for years.
I remember that. That was strange. I thought it was the craziest thing. People would like, I'd be filming videos at the previous location and you would talk about you're doing a certain movement or whatever for jiu-jitsu, and I remember reading the comments like, dude, we get it, you do jiu-jitsu, like shut up already. I'm like, what, they're telling Nsima that? Like, are they crazy?
No, my shit went on to decline, a sharp decline. Like it's like I was doing all this bodybuilding stuff, and then once I started jiu-jitsu, everything just started falling, and it was for years. And I was like, damn, well, my bad. But I wasn't going to stop it because I truly enjoyed it. And in my mind, I was like, whoever really digs wanting to do stuff like this, well, they'll get something from it. And if they don't, that's okay. But we can't do things just so that we can be accepted by our friends groups or people in our lives. We can't do that, you know?
Something that's been helpful for me. And I heard that, what's in David Blaine, the magician. I heard him talking about this on Joe Rogan, and I was like, oh my God, I do the same thing. He talked about lying to yourself and how, people talk about lying to yourself in a negative sense, but he talked about lying to himself in a positive sense. And I was like, I do the same fucking thing. So this is really useful for those of you that sometimes are struggling to get a certain amount of work done. Just convince yourself to go do like a little bit of something, and then you'll find yourself doing more. An example, it's just an easy example is working out. If you say, I'm just going to go in the gym and do, a couple sets of shoulders, you'll probably be in the gym for longer. You'll probably have convinced yourself to go in the gym for a longer period of time, which is going to help you with your consistency and your commitment to fitness. The same thing with when I'm running. I don't really have aspirations of like running super far, but a lot of times when I'm running, I'm just like, I'm going to run to that landmark. I'm going to run to that tree. And then when the tree comes and I still feel like I have good energy, I'm like, just push a little further. Like, it's not going to kill you. Like, just go a little further. And so that's been really helpful to me. And there's been many situations like that in my life. I used to do track when I was a kid, and I remember like our coach would have us run, and I hated like, any longer distance running, but we just did it as a team here and there. And when I ran, I remember, one of the other athletes on the team, was like, he's like, oh, it's just way easier if you just put your head down and just concentrate on your steps, like just one foot in front of the other, just kind of keep going. And don't think about like how far we got to go. Cause if you're like, oh, we got to go around, I think we had to run like 1.5 miles or something like that. And I hated it, but, and it wasn't around the track. Actually, it was like kind of through this path. And I knew like, I knew the path, and I knew where the halfway point was and shit like that. So I was dreading it the whole time. But once I kind of just kept my head down and kept to myself and just looked at my own shoes basically, and didn't worry about what anybody else was doing, it was kind of over before I knew it. Kind of the same thing many people can probably relate when you cover up the amount of time that's gone by when you're doing cardio. Throw your t-shirt over top of it because you don't want to know about it. And that would be another great example. You don't love doing cardio, teach yourself to do 10 minutes of it. And I guarantee you'll probably work up a sweat. You'll probably feel good. You'll probably listen to a podcast and you're like, I might as well just keep going.
Mark, how do you feel about the idea of a jack of all trades? And I want to ask you this because I think this is interesting. Like, we're talking about not quitting something, right? But when I think about when quitting's become beneficial, like when I stopped focusing on eating a lot of carbs and I started fasting and seeing how that would do, I quit that diet. But I had a jumping off point to try something else that has yielded massive benefits, right? Quit focusing on getting as strong as possible for sumo deadlifting or whatever. And it's yielded benefits in performance because I had a jumping off point to something else. I was like, okay, I'm quitting this for now to figure this out. So there's getting decent at a lot of things, right? But a lot of people, it's like being a jack of all trades a lot of times is not necessarily looked it is looked down upon at times. So how do you feel about that, or quitting but having a jumping off point to get good at something else?
I think putting all your eggs in one basket and trying just to be a savage at one thing is admirable, but a lot of times it doesn't do what a lot of people think it's going to do. I heard something more recently about kind of like filling gaps in your life and filling like a hole in your heart kind of type of thing. And it's said that not all the holes that you have in your life are supposed to be filled, but you are supposed to fulfill them. And so that is really, like, I find that to be really interesting, because I think that it's the pursuit of stuff that makes us feel good, and when you're pursuing something and you're thinking that the certain number that you're going to deadlift or this certain thing that you're going to do is going to really give you fulfillment, it really won't. It doesn't really change anything. I mentioned this before. You can only live in one home at a time. You can only drive one car at a time. There's the convenience of it can be great, but you can only use so much of these resources. Even when you do obtain them, they don't really do much for you. When you get to that 800-pound deadlift or whatever that goal is that you have, it's not necessarily going to be serving you the way that you might think. Now, the journey of it, the steps that it took, that will serve you forever. That will serve you a lifetime. Pursuing a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and trying to win a world championship, that'll serve you forever. Like those steps that you take to do that. How many times we see it with people that wrestled in high school. They're always just different than everybody. Somebody that stuck with it for a couple of years. You're always like, man, that guy, like our boy Settlage, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Those people, they just have a certain way about them, and it's that structure. But you never talk about wins and losses. I never even have gotten conversation with Josh about how proficient he was. I have no idea. I don't even know, but I don't care, because I just saw that. I saw what wrestling did for him as transformative for him, just like many of the people that we have on the show. What they're doing and what they did and what they pursued is massively transformative to them. How far they made it is almost irrelevant.
What about the saying, like, if you chase, I think it's rabbits, chase two rabbits at the same time, you end up with none. So how do you how can you get better at more than one thing and be proficient at both?
Hey, maybe chase one rabbit at a time, There you go. and then you end up with two, right? I mean, it just might take you time.
That's the big thing right there.
Yeah. Time.
Yeah. Just don't write shit off just because somebody said something. That's the main thing. I think, and Nsima's touched upon this a bunch, talking about having no limits. Why not? Why can't you look like a meathead and be jacked, but be philosophical? Why can't you, be well read and well studied and, you can, it's all out there. It's just a matter of time. So it does take time. I mean, that's going to be the one thing of currency that it's going to take you, is everything's going to always take you time. But if you're really interested in something, you're going to find that giving up is really hard. You're not going to really give up on somebody that you truly love, that you're truly interested in, but somebody that you maybe you don't flow together the way that you thought, that would be easier to give up on that particular relationship and move on to something else. So giving up, I think a lot of times it starts with the choice that you made to even get involved in something in the first place. And so that's kind of a critical thing. And I think that's fine to recognize that you go and do something and you're like, that ain't for me. I think that's okay. You don't have to view that as a negative thing.
How about avoiding that feeling of well, I mean, I know we're talking about giving up, but quitting, how not to feel like you I gave up though. I guess we can transition over into like jiu-jitsu or maybe powerlifting or something. I'll use me as an example, as like my back hurts, but I still want to keep powerlifting. And it's like, I'm not going to give up. I ain't going to be a little bitch. But in actuality, or in reality, it's like, no, if I give up powerlifting, I'll probably be able to, rehab my back, and I'll be better off anyways. But I guess if it's a part of someone's identity at this point, how do you avoid feeling like you are literally giving up on like who you are?
I think we kind of the big thing is the jumping off point for something else. For example, like when I made the switch to start focusing on jujitsu versus not focusing as much on strength, right? I was feeling myself literally getting weaker in terms of my 1 rep maxes, and I was like, oh, like that sucks. That really fucking sucks. But it was in pursuit of something that was going to be more beneficial, that I felt for myself was going to be more beneficial. I think it's also similar to when we all started fasting, Mark, it didn't feel the greatest when we started doing it.
Horrible.
Felt like shit. I felt like crap. Like I was like, I can't work out. But I was like, okay, let me give myself time and see what type of benefit I can get from this. And as that became part of my lifestyle, it showed benefits in so many different ways because I gave it time. But I was giving up on something that I thought was so useful, which was eating multiple times during the day and eating before working out. I gave up on that, right? But it was in pursuit of something that had potential to reap more benefits for me. And even though it was hard in the beginning, it did. It absolutely did. So you having to give up on powerlifting for your back, you're going to see in a bit when your back feels 100% and you're moving and you're all loosey-goosey and feeling great, you're like, oh, wow.
Loosey-goosey. You brought up fasting. What is, real quick, like something that you've been utilizing to help you with your fasts?
Well, electrolytes are always good. Electrolytes are freaking dope. Makes it easier so that a lot of times people when they're electrolyte deficient and dehydrated, they think they're hungry, so they start reaching for food. But electrolytes have been the main supplement that's helped me as far as working out, as far as maintaining a good fast. It's awesome. Makes a big difference.
I was doing some running yesterday and I got some lifting in. I actually I went a little overboard yesterday because I did a bunch of lunges and stuff. And I was like, holy shit, I better, wolf down a bunch of electrolytes. So I probably had about maybe 5 packets of the element, whatever that pink one is. I was like, oh, the grapefruit one. I think that's what it was. Absolutely delicious. Gets you all the electrolytes you need. Didn't have any problems with cramping, even though I fasted for a good 18, 20 hours or so. So, a lot of times I think that's why people are feeling like crap. It's because they're not getting in the proper electrolytes.
Yeah, I've been utilizing them for my workouts for a long time now, but it's just become way more apparent that like the benefits from it when I'm not eating. So like I train fasted, and when I drink Element, I still get pretty good veins popping. I still get a really good pump, and on top of that, like I'm hydrated. It tastes good. It's kind of a habit for me to have an intra workout, and it's probably like it's been my favorite intra workout that I've ever experienced. And if you guys want to experience it, head over to drinklmnt.com/powerproject. At this current time, they're still offering a free Element recharge pack. So that's an 8 sample pack. All you have to do is pay the $5 shipping and you'll get that shipped out to you. And if you guys are ready to jump all in the way we have, pick up a value bundle. That's going to be 4 boxes for the price of 3. Hopefully they have that watermelon salt back in stock. I'm definitely missing out on that right now. But yeah, all their flavors are amazing. Check out the chocolate. We love that with our coffee. And then all the other flavors, like I said, they're delicious. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes. But again, drinklmnt.com/powerproject. No code needed. Just head over there right now-ish.
Back to this kind of topic about, giving up and, why you might feel like you gave up on something. Like I said earlier, you might have selected something that's not great for you, something that's not in your best interest. The hard thing about all this is we don't really know what it is in our best interest. It's really just a lot of guessing. And that's part of being human is we have a lot of error correction. We work on something, we go towards something, and it's just like, man, that didn't didn't go the way I expected. Sometimes we have expectations of things that they're going to maybe happen faster than what we thought, and maybe something that you got into, let's say out of nowhere, you want to start taking some acting classes or modeling classes, or you want to start playing the piano. Shit, like maybe you go into that having no idea what's going on, and it scrambles your brain, it embarrasses you. You feel awful. You are clearly the worst person in class. And you're like, I will never go back to that again. Mm-hmm. It may have been useful to maybe look into it a little bit more. Like, what does that require? I wonder about that. I am interested. And then maybe you ask somebody that or maybe you look it up on YouTube. And then maybe you have a little bit better, maybe you're just a little more familiar with what you're getting yourself into when it comes to bodybuilding, when it comes to powerlifting. I often suggest go to a competition, go check it out, go see what it looks like, go see what these people look like when they're on stage, and how many judges there are and what people are looking for and what you're wearing and shit like that. I mean, how many times have we been to powerlifting meets and people need a singlet because they didn't even know, and so these things can, not knowing and not being aware of what you're getting yourself into can sometimes really add to the anxiety and can make you kind of, I don't know, just feel like crap and want to maybe switch gears into something else.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how much that can happen. But I think that it's hard to figure out, right? When you are stopping something. I think when quitting wasn't beneficial is when you end up heading into something or you end up regressing. Now, when I say regressing, I don't mean like you quit something and like I mentioned, I quit powerlifting. My lifts got a little bit weaker, but I was going towards something else that I was really pushing, right? If you've really given yourself an honest go at something, so for example, I think that a lot of people, when they do try out something like fasting or they do try out like something like a high fat diet, for the first few weeks, they're like, I don't feel good, or this isn't working for me. And they just quit it after like 2 weeks, when everyone says it's going to take you time to adapt and time to feel good on this and time to get used to it. People don't give themselves a good amount of time to really flesh something out before they quit. And in that sense, you really quit. It's like there's a big meme within the jiu-jitsu community that once somebody becomes a blue belt, they quit. Like the amount of people that get their blue belt and you never see them come to class again for like 6 or 8 years and then they come back, it's high. It's really high. But that's because like they reached a certain level of proficiency and then they're like, okay, I guess I'm good with this, so I'm out. Right. And maybe they quit and they started doing something else, but they were happy that they reached blue belt level. They became fairly proficient. And in a sense, that's okay, as long as what you're heading for is pushing you forward in a different, beneficial way.
There's a great Bruce Lee quote. This is one of my favorite quotes ever. Absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is uniquely your own. I think that's amazing. Like, because as you're going through all this, there are going to be things that you drop. There are going to be things that you could just say it. You just gave up on it. You quit it. It's okay. You're working towards being better. Maybe you quit smoking, So it doesn't always have to be like that. It's a negative, or maybe you quit any bad habit that you had. That can be a fantastic thing. And maybe you did give up on, let's say you gave up on lifting weights. You really, you heard all the information, you heard all the science about bone density and what it can do for your metabolism and all these different great things that lifting can do. You went to the gym for 3 months, and out of those 3 months, you hated it the whole time. It just turned out you just never found it useful or great for you. It wasn't uplifting. It was miserable. It made you sore. You got hurt. Then that's okay. Maybe that's not for you. Maybe there's some other form of exercise you can pursue, but understanding that some form of resistance would be great. So maybe you take up some hiking or mountain biking, or you do some body weight exercises at home. You find the thing that's going to be useful for you, and you add that into your routine. But there's going to be a lot of things that you quit and move on from and move into as you go on with your life.
Cool. So it's not all bad being a quitter.
Yeah, actually, just start there. Just quit and then move on.
Have an action plan, though. I mean, like, before you quit something, like, what you about to do, man?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, let me ask you this, Mark. What do you think would be for someone who, because a lot of people, they go from diet to diet. So what would you say are some things somebody needs to think about before quitting the diet they're doing and starting another one?
You have to just, I guess, each person needs to understand they're an individual and they're going to react to the foods, a little bit differently. So you, first of all, you always need to give everything time. Mm-hmm. I think a month is a reasonable amount of time, not to like drop 20 pounds or anything, but a reasonable amount of time to see if you're heading in the right direction, whether you're losing or gaining weight or slightly feeling better. There could be some cases where you might have to do the diet for a little longer because maybe you didn't have great adherence. Might have taken you a while to really get into it. But yeah, I mean, I think over time people are going to find what best serves them, and sometimes what best serves them, it's obvious to an outside person that that's not in their best interest because the food that they're consuming and what they're doing is having them regress. Their health is getting worse, but they're going to do the thing that's convenient for them, the thing that kind of quote unquote feels best for them in the moment. And again, that's what makes a lot of this so hard, is that we don't really always know what's best for us. And that's why it's good to sometimes put this stuff in other people's hands, hire a coach or hire a trainer, someone to lead you through it, because fitness is overwhelming. And it's like, I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, where does someone start? Like, where do you start? How do you explain all this to somebody? How do you explain some of this in a healthy fashion that doesn't have them going down this rabbit hole of like going from wanting to pursue some health to completely being unhealthy because they have like an eating disorder or they train too much, whatever it might be. And it's tough, it's really tough. But I think just, implementing some sort of rules into your nutrition and going with that for a period of time and seeing how it's feeling for you for about a month, I think would be a really smart thing to do. Give it a try for a while.
That's amazing. I feel like that's a really, really good way to wrap things up. Unless you guys have something else to add. That was one heck of a conversation, guys.
Nah, killed it.
Awesome.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you everybody for checking out today's episode. If you found anything beneficial, please make sure you hit that like button and share this with somebody that needs to hear it. Maybe somebody that's been like running into a brick wall nonstop thinking they're going to get through it, and maybe they just need to switch things up and I don't know, give up. Quit. Yeah, just give up now. Thank you to Piedmontese and Element for sponsoring today's episode. Links to them down in the description below, as well as the podcast show notes. Follow the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on TikTok and Twitter. My Instagram and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. And Nsima, where are you at?
At Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, at Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. And remember, guys, go to Apple and give us a 5-star review, because we're 5 stars. Okay, check it out. Mark, where you at, man?
Before we stop this, I got a thing to add here and a question. Yep. So people see David Goggins, they see him running like a madman and yelling at everybody, everything like that, right? Mm-hmm. And you hear John Cena, has adopted the saying never give up type of thing. So we think that we need to go full blast and into stuff and everything, but there are situations where it's important that you tap out, but also they understand why you're tapping out. So if I'm to go to Nsima's dojo and I'm to pair off with him, and I'm trying my hardest to beat him, every time he puts me in some sort of hold or lock, I mean, look, it's in my best interest to fucking tap. Otherwise, that's not going to be a great idea, right? So you have to understand why that's happening. You have to be level-headed about it. You have to understand that you're not prepared for that particular moment. If I'm to run with David Goggins, the same thing would happen. I'd get fucking killed. I've lifted with Stan Efferding. I lifted with Eric Spoto before. I've lifted with some of these monsters and been around some really great people. And occasionally there's been some times where I ran with Cam Hanes. There's been things that I haven't been prepared for. And not that I was trying to prep for those particular things. And even if I did prep for those things, I don't think I'd ever be able to catch up to some of those guys. But the point being is, don't give up because you're not fully committed yet. Don't give up because, like, if I went to jiu-jitsu and people at Nsima's school, they just decided to kick my ass because I'm big, and they wanted to, try to make it so I never come back or something like that. Don't give up then. Like, give yourself have more respect for yourself to come back and do it again and do it again and do it. Give yourself a fair shot. And then if you gave yourself a fair shot, then it's okay to say, hey, this isn't really for me. It's not working out the way that I thought. But make sure that it's not because you're not prepared. You got to put in a lot of work, and you got to put in a lot of time. And when you don't do that, when you don't have that built up, it's going to be really fucking easy to give up.
Where can people find you, Mark?
Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. I'm at Mark Smiley Bell. Catch you guys later. Bye.